Hey there, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This is Brandy J with Voices of Courage. This is actually the first interview slash recording of 2022. And I am in luck to be able to have with me today Dr. Jenkins or Dr. J. Dr.
Dr.
T.
J.
I see. So we can call you Dr. J here, right? I
Hmm.
like that. I like that. Okay. Well, Dr. J is with me today. She is a licensed therapist, coach. She does a lot. I don't want to give her the savior title. I'm sorry, Jesus, but I mean, you'd be proud of her. You know what I mean? Because we need her. We need her, especially within the Black community. So, how are you doing today?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be on the show.
Yes, me too. I'm so happy that you like the first one for 2022. So, this has got to.
Yes, this is a good way to start, too.
Yep, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Dr. J, can you let the listeners know your why? I like to ask people like, what's your why? I don't know if you ever heard it like that before.
Yes, yes,
What you
yes,
do?
yes, yes.
What is your why for what you do?
Um, so I have a few of them. When I started as a therapist, I actually started with substance abuse, and I started with community-based programs and low-income type programs. And my why then was because I wanted to reach folks who were in the community where I was. So I was born and raised in Camden, New Jersey. And so that's where I started. And then as I was there, what I started realizing was that there were not a lot of folks who look like me to service clients who look like me. Um, as folks moved up through the ranks, it got, pardon the expression, but it got whiter and whiter as you moved up through the ranks. And part of that is because of the barriers for access to quality education and funding for school and all of that. And so I decided that I was going to try and change that. And um, I was going to go as far as I could possibly go. I never intended to initially get my doctorate, but I wanted to be able to better service folks who look like me. And then as I started going through the ranks and getting licensed, I started realizing that there were not a lot of folks who looked like me in clinical leadership. And so I had a mentor. His name is Dr. Jude Idioma. I don't even know where he is right now. I wish I could connect with him. Who sat me down and he said, you really do need to be in leadership. And I've resisted it for a while, but then we had to talk about just how few people there were who looked like us, who were in these type of positions. And so then that became my why. I wanted to break through that ceiling. And then I did about 20 years in various stages of behavioral health. And then I started realizing that there were not very many people of any color, really, but particularly Black folks who were in private practice for therapy. And there was this whole gap. If you had, community based insurance, there were a ton of places you could go. But not if you were just a regular working person who needed some help with stress relief. So in 2018, that's when I decided to launch my practice. So that became my why. And now I'm at a point in my practice where um, I've decided that I need to branch out and kind of take this message of health, what mental health is, not mental illness, but mental health out more into the community. So now that's my why, just spreading that message and showing folks that, yes, there are therapists who are people of color, Black folks who are in private practice, who are open and willing and who understand the nuances of social injustice and systemic oppression and how that impacts our mental health and mental well-being, and who are willing to help navigate through that with folks. So kind of at each stage, my why has evolved a little bit. So that's kind of where I am today.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is so awesome that you say that because as you're talking, I was like seeing stuff from like a different, standpoint, especially when you spoke about us seeing other people like us and in those settings, and then also being able to deal with these things that we keep trying to we get frustrated with society or other races, they don't
Mm-hmm.
understand, you know what I mean? They don't
Mm-hmm.
see this. And it's like that does start to take a toll and
Mm-hmm.
it's real, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
we need to know how to not let it, you know, how to deal with it, right? And it's like we get angry and we're like, why don't they see it? You know, and it's like they're not going to, you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? But it's more about us being able to deal with it and being able to adjust and accept it. So I really
Mm-hmm.
appreciate you for bringing that up because I mean the social justices and all those things right there. I even the other day I was sitting there thinking like I was kind of getting ticked off. I was like, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see that there is the what's the word they're using now, uh, privilege and all that stuff.
Yes.
And it's not even a bad way when I tell white people. It's like it's not like that. Like you're saying, you have white privilege. You know what I mean? It's like privilege. Like it's going to be different for you. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's how it is. If they call you somebody a police officer in the park and say, "Man, this is doing blah blah blah," which one are they going to go to? They're going to go
Right.
to the black
And
man.
the other way to look at it is, and when I talk to folks who have, because I also have clients who are white too, but when we talk about privilege, because that word is so loaded now, another way to look at it is you get the benefit of the doubt.
Yep.
Like if you don't want to call it privilege, just call it the benefit of the doubt. If a call is made, you could be the one that somebody is calling about, but if we're both standing in the store, you're going to get the benefit of the doubt that no, it couldn't possibly be this person. It's got to be this person. You know,
Right.
here I am with my locks and my melanated skin. I'm going to be the first person, especially if it's a day off when I'm, in jeans and sneakers or sweats and, you
Right.
know, I'm not going to get that same benefit of the doubt. And I think sometimes just looking at it from that lens helps people to understand it a little bit more too. But you're absolutely right. Like it's everywhere. Like it is literally everywhere.
Yeah, very much so. I like the way you explained that too, because it could help the a white person also look at it and be impacted by it too. Like, why would they just automatically assume? You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, I wanted to ask you about because you okay, so you used the word, and I was like, I see this often, the cognitive behavior, cognitive dissonance, right, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Could you explain to the listeners a little bit more about how that works?
Okay. So cognitive behavioral therapy, the way that I explain it in like a really like broad way, is the way you think impacts what you do, right? Because the way you think is connected to how you feel. And so in cognitive behavioral therapy, what we do is we look at what the thoughts are that you're having and how those thoughts are impacting how you feel, because all of that is going to impact what you do. So if you think, for example, that you're a horrible person, right? You just think that, I can never get it right. I'm always messing up, whatever. If that's the way you're always thinking, you're going to feel more likely than not depressed. You might have some anxiety about trying new things because you think you're going to fail, right? And so as a result, excuse me, you're not going to do much. You're not going to try. You're not going to put forth any real effort because in your mind, I suck at all of this and I'm just going to fail anyway, right? So what we do is we look at what we call irrational thoughts, those thoughts that really don't make sense. Where did those thoughts come from? Whose voice is that really, right? A lot of my clients, when they come to me with those type of feelings, it's really because somebody in their childhood kept
Hmm.
telling them that they were horrible, no good, you weren't going to be anything, you're just like your mom, you're just like your dad, y'all are just no good, whatever. Sometimes it's a larger societal message that they've received, right? Especially if they're a black or brown person, the message of you're less than, you don't quite matter as much, your worth isn't as high as someone else's. And so they've internalized all of those voices and they've lived with them for so long that it becomes their inner voice, right? Like they just adopt that voice and it becomes their own. And then they wonder why they're stuck with low motivation, no drive, stuck in dead-end jobs, because it doesn't always materialize in what we think of as clinical depression, right? Most of the time when people say depressed, they think of somebody who's just like, oh, I don't want to get out of bed today. I don't have any energy, whatever. But depression doesn't always present like that. Sometimes depression presents as chronic pain. All of these stomach issues and back issues and, just joint issues that you've been to the doctor over and over and over again. They can't find anything. And you're like, I know I'm not crazy. Everything hurts. Some of that has an emotional basis to it, right? And so if we can look at all of those thoughts that you are walking around with and giving space to on a regular basis, 99% of the time, we can actually start to see improvement in your physical health, because the mind and the body are connected. You cannot separate the two of them. So when we say cognitive behavioral therapy, we're talking about therapy that addresses your thoughts so that we can get you to do something differently, right? Now, the other term that you use, cognitive dissonance, that's a different kind of term. It's kind of in the same kind of school of thought, but it's this disconnect between what we think and what we do, right? So if you think, I'm really capable and I'm really qualified and, I could really do this job, but you never apply for the job, we got to look at that and resolve where the disconnect is between what you think and what you do. Most of the time, what we find is there are some other layers of thoughts or feelings or experiences in there that kind of grab us by the collar and pull us back when we go to move forward. And so therapists can work with you to help you resolve that dissonance as well, and kind of get you to think, feel, and do all of those things in alignment.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think people need to really listen to that. Like, especially when you said the mind, the body, you can't separate it, And so, and I know that you are really big on mental, health, the overall health, especially like within Black people and Black women, because like, for one thing, I find it to be problematic that people don't realize that the food we put in our bodies can affect our thinking. And it's just like I tell people, if you put the wrong gas in your car and stuff, and it's not acting right, you put the wrong food in you, you know what I mean? You mentally are just not thinking right, acting right. It can really mess you up. You say you want wealth, then you got to take care of your health. It makes no sense to go after wealth. You got to be alive to use the money. So I don't know.
And if you're not healthy, you're gonna run the risk of exhausting all of your wealth trying to take care of your physical body.
Yeah.
So there is no and it's I guess it's occupational hazard, right? Like, I think of this stuff all the time because this is what I do, but it's always really mind-blowing to me to listen to that disconnect in people between, like, I want to, hit 7 figures, let's say, right? And I want to do this, but you're not sleeping properly.
Right.
And if you're not sleeping properly, your body doesn't have the time to reset and refuel and do what you need it to do, so that you get those ideas that then you can, use to create the wealth and all of that other kind of stuff. There's so many dimensions of wellness that I think we miss out on because we think it's just, okay, I either got to grind, or, I'm this super healthy health nut or whatever. But too much of anything is not good.
Right.
So we really have to, especially in our communities, we really have to work toward establishing more of, not even a balance, because that has some other connotations to it, like everything's going to be level all the time, but more of a rhythm, right? Like, everything doesn't have to be perfect all the time, but we've got to find that beat that we can move to, that we can navigate within, right? It's kind of like your favorite song. You might like house music. I might like, like smooth jazz. They're 2 different tempos, but the house music works for you. That's where you can function. The smooth jazz works for me. So it's not really about balance. It's more about finding the rhythm that works for us, but it incorporates all aspects of our wellness. Because there really, in total, are 8 dimensions of wellness,
Yeah, I was
right?
reading that. Yeah.
And we talk a lot about, especially now in the mental health space, there's a lot of fighting for parity that's been going on, to get mental health as respected as physical health. So to get clinicians and therapists and counselors recognized by insurance panels, compensated by insurance panels with the same degree of respect as physicians, because that's not happening. And it's really important.
Yeah.
But those discussions center a lot of the time around mental health and physical health. Like that's all there is.
Right.
When in reality, folks like me are looking at all of the 8 dimensions. So we're looking at physical health, we're looking at your mental health, we're looking at your spiritual health, believe it or not. We're looking at your intellectual health. Are you engaging your mind in learning new things? What does your
Right.
social circle look like? What does your environment look like where you live? What is your job? Do you have work-life balance? We're pulling in all of those dimensions of wellness. So it's not just did you go to the doctor? When's the last time you got your checkup? Or, what's your mood like? We are really involved in helping our clients develop what I consider holistic wellness with all 8 of those dimensions pulled in. So it's important. If you don't, even with money, like I know there are a lot of people who have money concerns. The economy has been, fluctuating really crazy the past 2 years. But if you don't look at what you're doing, so occupational health is, your work and your work-life balance. One of the biggest financial barriers is that you may be in a job where you're underpaid. So you can't separate then your occupational wellness from your financial wellness, because if you're not in the right position and you're not getting paid what you deserve, you're going to have to figure out how you navigate that to get to where you want to be. But also, being in a job where you're underpaid messes with your emotional health.
Yeah.
It messes with your physical health. It messes with your even your spiritual health, the way you see yourself in the universe, right? It messes with your ability to connect with other people, because you've got all of this other stuff going on. So it doesn't matter what dimension we start at, we end up, if we're doing a comprehensive plan, we end up hitting all 8 of those dimensions, because you cannot separate it. It's like, separating pieces of wind. It's just not gonna happen,
Yeah,
You have to
exactly.
take it all. Whether you realize that's what you're doing or not, you really are. If you're really doing wellness correctly, you really are looking at all of those parts of yourself.
Yeah, most definitely. I love that you brought that up, because that's usually stuff that you're gonna have to, like I tell people, we're responsible for our health. Like we just look at, people just wait to be told, like, okay, we have this going on and we're gonna create this to help you, take this. It's kind of like nobody's thinking, like, how come we're not eating better? How come we're not, like, how come we're not, it's like, you have to be told to take care of yourself, and they're not even telling you how to take care of yourself. Because if they were, they'd be like, eat better. It'd be less stressful, because stress, your mental health could lower your immune system, and all that stuff. So I just think it
All
makes
of it.
a lot of sense to like you said, self-care is important, but it's got to be self-care, not the government didn't tell me yet, so I guess I'm good. Like, no, it's not that.
Right.
Self-care.
Right. And I think that's the thing. That's one of the biggest misconceptions about self-care, is that it's this it's only manicures, pedicures, spa days, that kind of thing. Like, people don't understand that this conversation that we're having, we are talking about self-care. It's not always glamorous. It's not always let me put some cucumbers on my eyes and just, relax with a mud mat. It's not that. Really, if we shrink self-care down to just that stuff, all we're doing is personal hygiene, because that's stuff that, you go get a facial, that's good for your skin. You go get, a massage, it's good for your circulation, but you're not doing anything to address the other parts of you. So, and self-care is really if you do it consistently, it really can be your superpower. Because it is the foundation upon which the rest of your life is built. If you are a broken foundation, you're not going to have anything to give to your family, to your friends, to your community, because you're always going to be exhausted and burned out and sick and tired and frustrated and overwhelmed. And you're not going to help push your legacy forward.
Right.
You're going to burn out before you get to really see, your children and your children's children really, grow and develop. Black folks have some of the highest mortality rates for, cardiovascular stuff. So heart attack, stroke, cancers, obesity, all that other kind of stuff. All things that if we looked at these 8 dimensions, there is a cure for, and it doesn't cost us anything. Right. Something like getting outside more and getting more natural sunlight, which has vitamin D, which not only helps boost your mood, so we're talking about emotional health, but it also helps improve your physical health because it's boosting your immune system. It's also, if you choose to incorporate it, can be a spiritual practice because you can use that time outside to meditate, to pray, to connect with the divine, in whatever way you practice. So you didn't do anything. All you did was walk outside. Didn't cost you anything. But now you've hit these 3 dimensions of your wellness. Technically, you've hit 4 because you've saved some money. You didn't have to do anything.
Right.
So you've also hit, your financial wellness, right? If you want to add in social, go out and walk with a friend. Now you've hit another dimension of your wellness. You want to hit intellectual wellness? Go out and read a book outside in the sun. If that book is one of your, spiritual manuals or whatever, again, you've got your spiritual and your emotional and your intellectual and your so there's so many ways that we can build this in. I just don't think we're really as cognizant of it as, as it would be helpful for us to be. But it's there's so much that we do on a regular basis that we just don't do it consistently enough to see those benefits. I'll do a spa day once a year for my birthday, and that's my self-care day. Or I'll take a long bath once a week, and that's no. There are ways that you can integrate just 20 minutes of these dimensions into your daily practice and give yourself years, literally, on your life because you're reducing your stress, you are centering yourself, and now, you're not blowing up at folks as much. You don't have as much road rage. Your gut is settled because now you're taking your nutrition into account, or even just, I don't know, drinking more water and getting better sleep. Those things go a really long way in having this ripple effect of wellness. And we've got to start looking at those things that are portable that we can literally do every day so that we give ourselves a little piece of our day as we go, instead of kind of stockpiling, putting everything and everyone else on our to-do list except ourselves. And then we don't do anything until we're half dead. Well, by then, if all you're doing is 20 minutes, 20 minutes not going to go very far. But if you've been doing that 20 minutes consistently every day, you have exponentially improved not only the quality of your life, but the quality of lives for the folks around you, and you can have greater impact.
Yes. I love that. That's some good stuff. It's so true. Wow. And that's so important that people really look at that because, like you said, it costs nothing. And then by the time when you don't do all that stuff, then now you're paying all this money. You're not doing too much. It's all the things that all you had to do was just take care of yourself. You wouldn't even have to have went, to, not trying to take anything away from you guys because, you guys have a job. But if people didn't take care of themselves, then they wouldn't have to go, to the go see this person. And then, but at the same time, financially try to figure, now you really got to dig in, financial issues. It didn't get any better because people have a tendency to put themselves later. Like there's this, especially within the Black community. I was listening to, I think it was Steve Harvey or somebody the other day, and it sounds all motivational, like great, but he's like, something about sleep. You can sleep later when you're dead or something like that. And this and that, like it's about grinding. And that's what's being our mindset. I'm like, yeah, that don't even make any sense. I'm like, you get tired, grumpy, like, and it's dangerous. You know, it messes with your body. And I'm just like, why wear your body out that you need to do these things you're trying to do? And it's like, I think we've been conditioned to think, take care of yourself later, and that like there's like looked at as like, yeah, that's the right mindset versus somebody that's getting all the rest and stuff. You're like, well, I'm not doing it. I am.
Well, for us as a people, a lot of, I mean, particularly if we look at just the dynamic of Black women, right? There's this this stereotype of the strong Black woman, right? That somehow Black women can do everything, be everything, don't need anybody else. We got it. And there was a time when that was the only way we could survive. When we were enslaved and we were on plantations, if our children were ripped from us, we weren't allowed to show emotion. If our spouses were ripped from us, we weren't allowed to, interfere and intervene and do anything. We had to give birth at like 6 a.m. and be back in the field by like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Like there was no option given to us. So strength was the only thing that we had. And we conditioned ourselves and then taught our children by default, you don't have feelings. Whatever's wrong with you, you suck it up because you don't want to be seen as a target. We don't want to invite any more cruelty than what we already have. And so we're going to silence our feelings. We're going to silence our needs. And we're just going to make sure that everything else gets done, because if we don't, this is a matter of life and death. But when you fast forward to where we are now, although there are some very real, very strong ramifications of us being enslaved and in that system, and even now, modern day slavery still persists.
Yep.
But we also have modern day tools that we can use. And those tools that were once very useful to us and the only thing we had are not what we have now. And those tools are now kind of expediting our demise, because it's the reason why we have higher instances of cancer, high blood pressure, stroke, diabetes, all those other things, because all of those illnesses have a strong correlation with stress.
Yeah.
All of those illnesses, when you look at them and break them down, people who can significantly reduce their stress can significantly reduce the impact that those diseases are having in their lives. So we've got a lot of time to make up for, and these self-silencing tendencies, I mean, we got them, honestly. We've got them from our forefathers and our foremothers, but it's time for us to now expand and use some of the tools we have. Like I said, there are other therapists of color. There are a ton of clinicians directories that specialize just in, there's one specifically for Black men, there's one specifically for Black women, there are ones for, all people of color, Indigenous and people of color. Like there's a ton of resources out now that our grandparents and our parents even didn't have, that we owe it to them to do better for ourselves, because their sacrifice was so that we could do better and live better and go further than what they were able to do. So I think it's really time for us as a community to really start to, honor our ancestors for the sacrifices they made, but understand it was never their hope for us to continue to struggle.
Exactly.
They sacrificed so that we could have something better and different. And so it's not disrespect to them to say, well, my grandparents didn't need therapy. They needed it. They just didn't have it available to them. And they endured what they did so that when you had access to these tools, that you would use them to go further, so that your grandchildren wouldn't have the same stories about you that you have about them.
That is so real. Oh my gosh, it's like you're in my head. Yeah, that's exactly where my mind is. It's like You have, and I'm as I'm listening to you, you know, it's helping me to process like my frustrations and understand like my own people, like the frustration of like why are we not doing
Mm-hmm.
anything? Why is it that we fight each other, but when it's we won't fight the injustices, the systems, we get quiet and we, you know, and then I start to think like, man, that's that like that Stockholm syndrome or like you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
that slave, you know, that's embedded in us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely I see that, and I want to be able to be more understanding of it if I acknowledge it and how to what words to use, how to motivate and uplift my people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Versus, man, y'all, you know, instead of talking down,
Right.
getting frustrated, what words can I use to encourage, to uplift?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that definitely is important, right? And
Yep.
what is self care, right? But it all involves us. It's like connected. We self care. Our self care, right, is actually helping other people, one another, because we deal with one another.
Mm-hmm.
So my self,
There's a very real social aspect to self-care.
yeah,
And that's why I say that it's not this bad thing. It's not this thing that we do in isolation. When I do I go and I do like workshops on self-care and some other topics. And one of the first things that I lead with in the workshop is self-care is not selfish. Let's get that out your head right now.
right,
Self-care is you taking care of you so that you can take care of business, whatever that business looks like. So self-care isn't just something you do with yourself, for yourself, by yourself. It's an investment in yourself so that you can then invest in your community, in your family, in your workspace, in whatever places you operate. And that presenting it that way has helped me to have, like you said, those difficult conversations with folks who are like, "Nah, I don't get it. I don't do all of that. I don't have time for all of that." And being able to frame it as, this is your birthright. Your grandparents, your great grandparents, they didn't have this. They wanted it. They didn't want to work, sun up, sundown, work their fingers to the bone, see their children, ripped from their breasts. They didn't want to see any of that. They endured it because they had to, and because they did, you're here. But now that you're here, let's look at what tools you had that they didn't have
right.
access to. Let's honor them by using those tools and those skills. And it's not a slight to them. Like, it's, you did it so that I didn't have to. And I appreciate you for your sacrifice. But this
Exactly.
is what I'm going to do today.
Right? People think they got to take on the tradition. Like, I'm going to do it too. I'm like, I don't think that's what they would want. You know, but hey, wow, wow. Okay, well, okay. So you have the book, it's the guide of I wrote it down, the guide, the Black Woman's Guide to
To self-care.
Reclaiming My Time, right?
Reclaiming my time. Yes. So a couple years ago when Auntie Maxine said she was reclaiming her time, it stuck with me, right? Like, just that whole phrase, the whole hearing was something to remember, but that line in particular, it kind of stuck with me, and I started thinking about like our literal time. Like, as Black women, our time is given to so much, to so many different causes, right? We are, you know, aunties, moms, sisters, wives, partners, CEOs, you name it, we do it. Excuse me. But how much of that time do we give ourselves?
Right.
And so in my practice, what I started seeing was that a lot of the professional Black women in particular who were coming to see me, which is probably about 96 to 98% of my practice, they were coming to see me and they were saying things like, I'm just really depressed. I don't know what to do. I don't know, career wise, I'm feeling blah, or I'm really anxious all the time and I just can't seem to relax and I'm always on edge. And so they wanted me to tell them that they had depression or anxiety or, all those things. And I'm like, okay, well, let's start with, what does your typical day look like? And that's usually how I start when when anybody comes and starts saying, here's this problem. Well, first, let's look at what you're doing, what's working, what's not working. And what I found in just about every single one of those cases is that their schedules were filled, but it had nothing to do with them.
Mm.
And that the hour that they had set aside every week, every month, every 2 weeks to come and meet with me was the only time that they had carved out for themselves. Which, when you think about it, is insane.
Yeah.
1 hour of a week. There are 24 hours in a day, but you only took out 1 hour a week to take care of yourself. And so I found myself kind of saying the same thing over and over and over again to all of my clients. And the opportunity came for me to write a book. I was approached about writing a book, and I thought about what I would write it about. And I was like, you know what? I don't think I want to write a book in the traditional sense. I want a workbook. I want something that is going to be a tangible, like when I get done with this, I've done something. There are a ton of books that we read and we're, oh yeah, this sounds good. This is great. And then we put it down
Right.
and we go right back to where we were before, right? Like I've done the same thing. I'm guilty as well. So I didn't want just a pick it up and read it from cover to cover. Oh, that sounds great. Yeah, girlfriend. Preach, sis. And then you go right back to where you were. So what I did was for each of those 8 dimensions, there's probably about 12 activities in the workbook altogether. But I introduce each dimension of wellness, what it is, what it's not, how we practice it, and then there's an actual activity that challenges you to dig deep and do that. And then after you do that, to sit with your thoughts after you've accomplished that activity and write out what you're thinking and feeling. And then I encourage folks to, if they have a therapist, to go and then review those afterthoughts with the therapist and dig even deeper to figure out how you can really cement this thing and make it an everyday practice. Because like I said earlier, 20 minutes is really all you need every day. If you can commit 20 minutes to yourself every day, and there are a ton of people who say, oh, I don't have that much time. One of the first activities in the workbook is sitting down and looking at how you spend your time every day. Every time I've done that activity with one of my clients, it's I got a lot of time left. Yes, you do. But you fill it with scrolling on social media. You fill it with sitting on the phone, probably talking about nothing with the girls. You spend it with, just stuff that isn't really fulfilling you or bringing you any joy. Right. It's just you zone out and you give away your time. And I think that if we can start to reclaim that time, to give ourselves that time back that we need, to invest in ourselves, because we are our greatest asset.
Yeah.
When you invest in yourself, the return is always so much more than what you've invested, right? This isn't like playing the stock market where you might get back what you put in or you might not. This is the only investment where you are 100% of the time guaranteed to see a tangible return. Yes. And so the workbook is just my effort to, put that out there and encourage particularly Black women, because that's one, I am a Black woman. I was raised by a Black woman, and 98% of my clients are Black women. And I found that this was a common thread through all of us. All of us have struggled, even as, a professional, running my own business, being a wife, being a mom. There are times when I have to, time out. I'll see y'all later. I'm going in my room and I'm going to read for the rest of the night. And I'll, last month I took a month-long sabbatical, and of that time I took 2 days away from my family. I told them I'm going to check into a hotel. I'm gonna just put my feet up, take a bubble bath, eat some junk food, and I'll be back in 2 days, because that's just kind of what I needed at that point. But every day, spending some time in prayer and meditation, making sure that even my physical environment, the diffuser is on with something that, helps lift my mood or calms my brain if I'm thinking too much, right? That I'm eating healthy, that I'm drinking a ton of water. Like I drink a gallon of water every day. You know what I mean? Like, it's little things like that that I've implemented, and that I know how difficult it was for me to implement, even with all of these alphabet soups I have behind my name. It was still difficult for me to implement. knowing it doesn't mean that it's easy to implement. And I wanted to really help my readers and my clients and the folks that I have been able to connect to find a tangible way to make this a regular part of their practice as well.
Right, right. That's funny you say that, because that was one of the questions too. I was going to ask, like, how do you implement what you know, use, or you show people how do you how does that, you know, work for you?
It's not always easy. It's not always easy. And there are times when I screw up royally. And I tell my clients that all the time. I said, listen, I'm not perfect at this. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is progress.
Right.
To get better at it today than you were yesterday, right? For me, I take I take breaks throughout the day. So I'm still a practicing therapist. So, you know, I might see, some days I see 6 people a day, some days I see 8 people a day, but I always have like a good lunch break. Since everybody's been back home, we all get to sit down and have lunch together on most days, which has been fun. You know, spending time with the family, having scheduled girl time where it's just me and some of my girlfriends that go out, having scheduled time with my husband, having time. I have 2 teenage sons, giving each of them their own time. And then sometimes we do family things together. Lately, it's been a lot of like when I'm driving, sometimes I'll just drive without the radio on. Sometimes I'll drive and I'll have like music on. Sometimes it'll just be like ocean sounds. It's, you know, it's finding those little pockets, whether it's 5 minutes or 5 hours, where I'm giving myself something back and not so jam-packed with everybody else. So every day it looks a little bit different, but like I say all the time, you just got to get it done. It doesn't matter how you do it. Doesn't matter even in the beginning. I would say it doesn't even matter how long. Just prioritize yourself. For some folks, the only time they get is when they're in the shower. So if that's the case, get a body wash that you like, find a soundtrack that you like, you know, something that feeds your spirit so that you can connect your physical health, which is, you know, taking care of your physical hygiene, with your emotional health, because you're going to have something that actually makes you excited about getting in the shower. Have a meditation on. That's your spiritual health right there. Drink, you know, plenty of water throughout the day. You're working on your emotional health, your physical health, your intellectual health, because you're helping your brain function. All of that. Like, doesn't have to be anything crazy. It's just finding little ways to steal back and again reclaim your time for you. That's the biggest thing.
And it becomes repetition. Then you start doing it like regularly instead of
then
saying,
you miss it. Then you miss it when you don't do it, and it's like,
you gotta go get it.
Did I drink my water today? I feel a little. No, let me go get some. Yeah.
Right. Yep. That is so true. That's so true. Instead of hearing people say, I got to go get the car tuned up, got to this, got to get a doctor. You know what I mean? No, I got to take care of myself, and it's okay, because we're not conditioned to think that it's okay that like you said, that whole a strong Black woman, you know, hold that role, and it's like that doesn't even make sense. Like you said, it was used in a time where, you know, we had to be. That's all we knew. And it's like now we're thinking we have to be that now, and it's like, no, we all are human beings, and we need to treat ourselves as such. So we want other people to care, then we got to show them
how to teach people how to treat you.
Right.
And if you're treating yourself bad, you are actually teaching other people to treat you horribly. And that's not good. That is not good. We wouldn't do that to anybody that we love, but we consistently do it to ourselves. And that's the habit we got to break.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing wrong, like you said, with self-love. It's not selfish.
No, it's not.
Shoot, I love it. I love it. And I love how you you know, and I was going to ask you something, but you hit it on the head with your family. Because I know I read that you like to read and spend time with your family and all that stuff. So I'm pretty sure that's connected with you, you know, stepping away and taking care of self.
Yep. Okay. When I take care of me, I can take care of them. Yeah, I like cooking, but if I'm stressed out and I'm overwhelmed, I'm not cooking. We're doing takeout. And if we do too much takeout, then that's not good, right? So in order to keep it balanced, they know that I need my time. I give them their time. and it works. I've been married now for, this year will be 19 years. And we've been together for 21 years this year. And we had to learn that, to give each other space. I was an only child. So I was used to having all my space, right? So my husband, on the other hand, is the oldest of three. And so he was a little bit more used to navigating and sharing space or whatever. So I had to learn a lot of this. I had to learn because I didn't have to kind of compartmentalize all these different things.
Right.
But we found a rhythm that works for us. And it's like, every now and then I'm just like, all right, checking out the deuces. I got a new book. I'll see you later, you know? Or, you know, sometimes we'll sit, my husband is a gamer. And I'll never forget, somebody asked me one time, she had just got newly married, and she was so frustrated because her husband loved playing video games. And we were all out somewhere, and the two guys started talking about games or something. I forget how it happened. But anyway, she was like, how do you deal with that? I was like, with what? She was like, with him being on the game. I said, oh, when he starts a new game, I sit there and I treat it like it's a soap opera. I'm following the you know, the storyline of the game. And my husband got mad at me one time because he was playing a game and I had to go do something, and he kept playing it. And I was like, but wait, you played it and now I'm lost. I don't know what happened to this person or whatever. And we, you know, we laugh about it now, but it's finding, again, that rhythm that works. Like, if we want to spend time together and this is the way you blow off steam, then let's make it work. You know, when you need your time of just, I don't feel like being bothered, and you just want to go play the game, then I'll go over here and I'll leave you alone. Like, and it's still self-care because we're still caring for our individual selves, but it's also that social and relational piece too of giving each other what they need. So I'm really fortunate in that my family, my husband was actually the biggest cheerleader for me going into private practice. But my family, my children, they all know what I do. They understand what I do. They understand when some days might be heavy. And sometimes, and they have a way of kind of picking up on that. Of like, it was a rough day today. Yeah, it was kind of rough. Like, even my kids, they're 15 and 17 now. They'll say, Mom, you don't look so good. It was a rough day. Yeah, it was kind of a rough day. You want some tea? You want, you know, you need some time? No, I'll be okay. Like, but it's because I've done it consistently. They've watched me do it. So now they know how to respond to me. So this self-care thing does not happen in isolation. It absolutely does not happen in isolation. You need your whole squad. And if you're married or you have children, you have to do it so that, one, it becomes important to them so they know how to take care of themselves, but also so that they can support you and kind of pull you up when they see you kind of drifting somewhere where they know is not you. So I really do have to credit my husband and my sons with being a very huge part of my self-care routine. Like, they really are. Don't tell my sons I said that, 'cause, you know, they'll get big heads, but yeah, they really are, you know, a big part of that routine for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome because you showed them.
Yeah, I did. Right? I did. Yeah.
How that all works together. That's good stuff. You hit, like you said, it's, with the dimensions and everything, so much to it. And it takes another shift or change once you add social, because now there's other people involved. It's not just me, you work together, you know, with the marriage, between the children, even at work. And so it's kind of like something that we get distracted by so much because we're doing other stuff that really isn't that important. Scrolling through this and that, and then, but we don't want to take care of those things that will make our lives a lot easier, because I don't feel like dealing with it, but you have to. So why not make it easier on yourself?
And if you just go ahead and pull the Band-Aid off, it's easier than if you just keep kicking the can down the road. It just gets worse later.
Yes, most definitely. I tell people it's that shoulda, woulda, coulda. Like, don't you want to, like, if you can do it now, see it now, so you don't have to be at this point where you're like, I wish I would, I shoulda.
Yes.
You know what I mean? If you can acknowledge it now, then hey, well, I don't want it. You know, I just, you know, like to keep my sanity. You know, whatever it takes to have that, then I'm all for it. So
yes,
most definitely. So you also have this amazing website that I'm figuring like it's fairly. How long have you? Is it fairly new or?
So the website was just redesigned last year.
Okay.
So I've been in private practice since 2018. The website that I had, it was great. Really simple. In working with a business coach, my business coach, Dr. Carrie Yazid, is phenomenal. She was like, I think it's time for you. You're doing more. It's time for you to update and show everything. Because my first website was just about the counseling practice. So all it had on there was the counseling stuff. And so I'm really excited about the website being redesigned and updated so that now there is space for the blog. We've got a mailing list. I do a monthly newsletter.
It was
So folks
YouTube
can
too, right?
sign up. Yep, I do YouTube. Haven't started back yet for this year, but I do have the YouTube channel. We do self-study courses on a number of different topics. The end of this month, January 31st, the new course is called The Whole You, is going to be launching. And so you can go and check that out. There's also a course for mental health professionals that will give them continuing education credits about integrating spirituality into the practice for their African American clients, and how for African American clients, spirituality becomes kind of the straw that can tip the balance in the favor of good clinical outcomes. I also did a self-study course for folks who identify as Christian but don't really understand this whole mental health, substance abuse, trauma, grief space. Looking at all of those issues through the lens of faith, and helping them to integrate their faith into their understanding of how to just navigate challenges with folks. So that course is there. And there's a bunch of different courses that are coming down the pike this year. We've got one that's coming on fear and the role of fear, how fear can paralyze us or fear can motivate us. So all of that stuff is available on the website. People can contact me for, speaking. We're going to be updating it pretty soon because we've got some new clinicians that have come on staff, so that I'm not doing all of this alone. So they'll be able to connect with some clinicians if they're looking for therapy in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Florida. I'm licensed in, and they'll be able to find clinicians if they're looking to work with a clinician and they haven't had success. They can connect with me on the website. But I love that website. I love everything about that website. That all of the pictures were from
very informative.
The photo shoot was phenomenal. Shout out to Ed Ward of Ward Legacy Studios in Philadelphia, and Looks by Lydia, who is my makeup artist. They did a phenomenal job. That the shoot was for the book launch, and he had some phenomenal ideas. And then when I handed that over to the team at HopeWorks in Camden to redo the website, they just took it, and I could not be more pleased with the way that the website came out. So I'm grateful to really have a phenomenal team of folks that I work with. Because again, the self-care thing does not happen alone.
Right.
It's a whole team.
Yep.
So I'm so grateful that the website came out in the way that it did. It really captures everything, and it puts things in a nice, clean, easy to understand format. And it's a little thing, but I was really excited. We always talk about how representation matters, right? And one of the things that I got the most excited about was how even the cartoons are Black people on the website. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. So yeah, we are really committed to making sure that our folks' voices are heard in these spaces. And the website does a really good job of just kind of relaying that. So, www.awakeningchange.org is the website. Go say hi, sign up for the newsletter, look and see if there are some classes you're interested in. And the book is also available there in the Learn tab. You can find copies of the book. If you go into the learning, there's like a learning module in there for the self-study courses. In the self-study courses, there's also a PDF version if you're more of a digital person and you don't necessarily want to wait for a physical copy of the book. You can also get a PDF copy of the workbook there as well.
Awesome. And definitely we're going to make sure that we put your website up onto our Real Wise website and then our radio station website, so people
Thank you.
access you like speaking or need help, then they'll be able to to do that. Most definitely. I'm so excited. Wow, you just you just started my year off like, where, because it's like a new year for me, and it's like I always see it as the next level. What do because I'm really big with the advocacy for bullying.
Mm-hmm.
And I was teaching for 9.5 years before the pandemic. So it's like it's one of those moments for me, and I just turned 43, so it's like everything just kind of but those moments like, okay, this is like the time. This is my time, and I have that self-care is really what it is. I'm like sitting here listening to you, and I'm like, okay, I just need to X, Y, and Z, put all in place, and then everything will make sense, right?
Yep. Because when you start taking care of yourself, it's amazing how much more creative you become because your stress level is down. Because what we don't realize is the way that your brain is, there are two sides of your brain. You've got a primal side to your brain that's just that fight, flight, freeze, right? Like it's just react. And then there's the logic side of your brain, which is, okay, wait, do we really need to react right now? Can we sit down and think about this a little bit longer? When you're stressed, something as slight as tension in your muscles triggers that primal side of your brain, that fight, flight, freeze. When that side of your brain is active, all of your logic goes to sleep. So when you're stressed out and you're wondering why you're forgetting things and you just can't quite, something and you like lose, like for me, when I'm really stressed out, I lose words. Like it could be a word I use every single day. It doesn't matter. I'm
right?
Like, what's it called? Because the logic side of your brain shuts down. Because think about it. If a bear walks into the room where you are, you don't need to know if it's a grizzly bear or a brown bear or a male or a female. You just need to leave. Like you don't need to think. You just need to leave, right?
Oh,
and so that's the way our bodies are designed, that if there's a threat or we perceive a threat, logic is like, y'all figure this out. I'll be here when you need me, right? So we get stressed, we don't take care of ourselves, and then we stay in that fight, flight, freeze part of our brain. When we learn to calm that side of our brain down, then logic can come full throttle and say, hey, I've been waiting to talk to you. I got some really cool ideas about the stuff you've been stressing about. Like all we got to do is, and it's like, oh, I've been stressing for like 3 weeks about this. And the minute I sit down and relax, it all comes, because that's the way your body was designed. So for all the creatives who might be listening, the key to your creativity is really self-care. If you take better care of yourself, all of that stuff really does start flowing so much easier. And it has, again, that ripple effect, because then when that happens, you feel better. When you feel better, you do better. When you do better, you feel better. When you feel better, you like, and it just keeps that good train rolling.
Yeah, most definitely. Then you're just like a pleasant to be around, pleasant person, just love when she comes around. Yep, that's
absolutely.
Well, wow, this is I'm loving this. I definitely would love to have you whenever you can, like, come back, or do some more, just like this, because this is needed, and especially like you said, for Black women, we got to start taking care of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
A whole lot better.
Whole lot better.
Yeah, most definitely. So I definitely will make sure that people know about your book too. I want to check that out also. And this is some
Thank
good
you.
stuff there. Some good stuff. Thank you for stopping by
Thank
for the new
you.
year, the beginning
Of
of the
course. Happy New Year.
year. Happy New Year. Is there anything that you would want to let say to the audience that you want them to know, or maybe even like a message that can reside with somebody?
I
To
just need folks to know, understand, believe with their whole hearts that any time invested in themselves is really time that they're investing in their community, that they're investing in their family. Don't look at it like, it's either me or them. No, it has to be you so that it can be them. So invest in yourself. You are your greatest asset. And if you're not okay, the people that you love are not going to be okay. And we want you to be around to see them be okay. And the only way to do that is if you take better care of yourself.
yeah, that's logic, right? makes sense to me. Makes sense to me, most definitely. Oh
Yeah.
well, I do once again. If I know that you did say already what the website name is, but do you have any Instagrams or any social media that you want to let the listeners know?
Yes. So on Instagram and Facebook, I am just Awakening Change. Or Facebook is Awakening Change LLC, and Instagram is Awakening Change. Twitter, I'm not on quite as much, but that's Awake Counseling. And folks can follow me. I try to post a couple times a week, random thoughts, some encouragement. And then, I let folks know when I'm going live and doing the recordings for that. So yeah.
Okay. Most definitely. Well, yeah, here at Real Wise, we definitely are some of the support and anything we can put, we have everyday internet radio. So most definitely just putting that out there and letting people know. Because like you said, in these times right now, it's very much needed because the isolation, all that is just like nobody's talking about the mental health.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. But once again, thank you, thank you. And before we end it, I just wanted to ask you, could you stick around for like maybe 2 minutes? Because some people times when
Absolutely.
I shut the show down and the person leaves, I'm like, wait, no, I was.
Absolutely.
Okay, good, good, good. Okay. Well, everybody, thank you for listening. I know you gained something from this. I know I did. I definitely did. And I hope that, people really take this in mind because it could change your whole life. So,
Yep.
and you don't have to spend a lot of money. You can save money by doing it now. So thank you once again for coming by. This is Dr. J. And oh look, Dr. J and Brandy J.
See?
Right. Voices
Meant
of
to be, meant to be.
exactly 2022 style. And until next time, we'll see you soon and take care of self.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Okay, this part I'll just have to X out.